The book appeared in the return bin on a Wednesday afternoon, though no one had checked it out. Marian Lane, the librarian of Crescent Hollow Library, frowned as she lifted the old hardcover from the pile of returns. The deep blue binding was faded at the edges, the title embossed in silver, "To Those Who Will Listen." She ran a finger over the cover. It looked well-loved but not worn out, the kind of book that had been handled with care. Yet when she flipped to the inside cover, there was no barcode, no library stamp, no record of it in the system. It wasn't part of their collection. Someone must have dropped it into the return bin by mistake. She sighed, tucking it aside. She'd leave it in lost and found for now. That evening, as she locked up the library, she caught sight of the book again, sitting alone on the counter. Something made her pick it up. When she flipped through the pages, a single envelope slipped out, landing softly on the wooden desk. She hesitated. It was sealed, the paper thick and slightly yellowed, like it had been waiting for years. There was no return address, no postage, just a name, written in precise, looping handwriting. Marian Lane. Her stomach tightened. Who would leave a letter for her inside a book that wasn't supposed to exist? After a moment, she carefully tore the envelope open. Inside was a single page of typed text. "If you are reading this, then you are willing to listen. You must not ignore the signs. Something is coming. It begins with a name you will soon hear. When you do, write it down, remember it. Do not brush it off. You will understand in time. And this is the first warning." Marian read it twice, then a third time. Was this a prank? A strange, elaborate joke? She checked the envelope again. No sender, no date, just those cryptic instructions. She glanced at the book. Was this part of a game? A mystery novel where the reader became the character? But then, why was her name on the envelope? Shaking her head, she slipped the letter back inside the book. It was nonsense. Yet, as she locked the library doors and stepped into the cool evening air, the words clung to her thoughts. 3 days later, Marian was shelving books when she overheard a conversation near the reading alcove. Yes, it was awful. Poor Elliot Grayson. Imagine waking up to find your entire shop vandalized overnight. She froze. Elliot Grayson. The name hadn't meant anything to her before. But now, the letter's words echoed in her mind. It begins with a name you will soon hear. She grabbed the nearest notepad and wrote the name down. Her hands felt unsteady. Coincidence? Maybe, but she had never heard that name before in her life. And yet here it was. Her heart pounded as she returned to her desk, staring at the blue book still sitting there. She hesitated, then picked it up and flipped through the pages. Another envelope slipped out. This time she expected it. Each week it happened again. Another copy of the book appeared in the return bin, identical to the first, right down to the faded silver lettering. Each time, a new letter was hidden inside. Each one predicted something small but undeniable. A woman in green will ask for a book that doesn't exist. Find out why. Do not loan out the collected works of William Ashford. You will know why soon. A man will ask for directions to a place that isn't real. Ask him where he's going. And each time, the event happened exactly as the letter described. The warnings weren't earth-shattering, no prophecies of doom, no disasters. Just subtle ripples like someone gently nudging her toward something. But toward what? And more importantly, who was writing them? One evening, as autumn leaves scattered across the sidewalk, Marian found the last book. This time, there was no envelope inside. Instead, the final letter was already waiting for her, printed across the last page of the book. She felt her breath catch as she read, "Marian, you have done well. You have listened, and because of that, you are ready. You have been watching, but now it is time to act. Tomorrow at 3:17 p.m. someone will enter the library. They will ask you for the book. You must give it to them, but only if they say the right words. If they do, you will understand everything." Her pulse pounded in her ears. The right words? What book? The letter didn't say who was she supposed to give it to and what would happen if she did. For the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to know. The next day, at exactly 3:17 p.m., the library doors opened. A man in his 30s stepped inside. His expression was calm, unreadable, like someone searching for something he wasn't sure he would find. He walked straight to the desk. "Excuse me," he said politely. "I believe you have a book for me." Marian's hands clenched. This was it. She forced herself to stay steady. "Which book?" The man hesitated. Then he said the words, "To those who will listen." The exact title, the same as the book that had been appearing for weeks. Her breath caught. This was the test. Whoever had written the letters, this was what they had been leading her toward. Her fingers hovered over the stack of books on her desk, one final copy of the blue-covered mystery. For a long moment she hesitated. Then, slowly, she pushed the book across the counter. The man took it, nodded once, and turned to leave. Marian could have stopped him, asked him what it all meant. But somehow she knew this was not the end of the story. This was only the beginning. The library felt different as the doors closed behind him, and when Marian turned back to her desk, her hands were empty. The book was gone, and it never appeared again.